Tov, Zoharim Tovim, and Lila Tov, no matter where you are at. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Carrie, and I wanted to share some things from the proof room today. A verse that came to my mind. Sometimes I have verses that rattle around, and they will usually be provoked from a comment that somebody makes or in a conversation that I'm having with my husband as we're wrestling these scriptures together and coming to the conclusion by seeing through the esoteric meaning of what has been given to us to steward and then to be able to present it to you. So the verse that I wanted to actually look at today, Isaiah 55:8. And for those of you who have been around in the Christian circles or have been a Bible student, you will recognize this one. The one, for my thoughts are not your thoughts and your ways are not my ways. I find this really fascinating, and I'm surprised I actually didn't look at this before. And if I did look at it before, I probably wouldn't have seen it the same way that I do now. Simply because over time, as you wrestle with the languages and more light is increased within you, then you have a greater ability to see things that you once didn't see. So to make this a little bit easier for you, I'm going to increase this in size so we can take a look at the letters themselves so you can see what's going on here. First, I need to share with you a very key point in our maturation process. When we are younger, we see things as black and white, good and bad, right and wrong, in the system of duality. And that is mother's job. So when you're being raised and instructed by your parents, they usually have rules that you follow that are do's and don'ts. Well, the language is like this as well. And so when you go through mother's teaching in duality, everything is about comparisons and this or that. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you is this word right here. This word right here means not. It's just a simple word. So, think of yes or no. And this would be the no or the not. And when you are in mother's teaching, you would see that as not. That means not my thoughts or your thoughts. But in the process of maturation, you begin to see this differently. You then see that there's an instruction that is being brought to you of oneness. And so this is important for us to comprehend, because just because it says not doesn't mean that it isn't. What I mean is that there is instruction that comes to you so that it is no longer a not, so that you can flip it. Because the exact opposite of this word is el, an aleph lamed, the aleph being in front, and that means, it also can be not, but it's the word that spells God. So until we become this oneness as a one leader, which would be aleph lamed being God, one leadership, which is oneness, unified field, then until we get to that point, we are under instruction. And that is why I wanted to share this with you today. For not my thoughts, your thoughts, mechanical translation, nor your ways, my ways, says Yod-He Vav-He. Now, anytime you see things in these parentheses, they added these words for grammatical purposes. So that is not part of the translation. So when we look at this as not my thoughts, your thoughts. Well, I just shared with you that we can be instructed in the way of oneness, which then would change this to be my thoughts, your thoughts. So what's going on here? We have cheshab here. And if any of you have watched my teaching series, As a Man Thinks, this is a critical piece of that verse in Proverbs that lets us know that it's our thought and our device and our plans and our purposes in through what we create. So my thoughts, the reason why it's my thoughts is there's a possessiveness. Whenever a yod is added, it's possessiveness here. But when we look at it, we know that that is power, means, and direction that is given to us through the Father. And this is the root. So in its static position, this has to do with us as a lump of clay that needs to be formed and fashioned. It's in the static position until letters are added or deleted from that. And in this case, what I haven't highlighted, you can see a mem, vav, tav, yod. This is our activation making in a verb. So thoughts, what are we to think about? Well, we can see right off the bat that we have Mother's teaching added, her living water teaching, which is, the way I've simplified it, is the golden rule, the external orientation between us and man, and us and source. And then on the other side of it, we have the Vav Tav Yod, which is then connecting us to the covenant of the Father, where we will be given the power of the right hand as those who give. So the process of it through our thinking is that we must go through instruction in order to have thoughts that have power. And that is because when we look at the root, we have the het, which means to be outside, but it also is the symbolic meaning and representation of life, because it's het, yod, tav. Chai means life, and tav is the covenant, so the life of the covenant. That is the fire, the consuming process in order to build you on the inside. So this is really the outside and the inside that are coming together through the thought process, where the consuming fire is going to burn everything up in your lower flesh so that you can connect to the covenant of the unified field, the the oneness in an unconditional love, where you will be given power from the Father. And then we drill down a little bit further, because there's something else that we need to know of where our thoughts were. In order to have our thoughts be the thoughts of the power that comes from the right hand of Father, it is giving us just a little bit more information. And what is the little bit more information? Well, you can see that the kaf mem is added. So the kaf means to be bent, to be yoked, to be a cup that is meant to be filled full of power. It is a hand that is cupped to receive the power. This is an open hand that gives. This is the cupped hand that receives the kaf, and they both mean power. So this is being presented through the Father, through his esoteric teaching, because that's what's on the suffix. The prefix is Mother and her teaching of conditioned love, and the Father's teaching through the language, the esoteric side, is of unconditional love. And he presents this vision to you, but you must grasp a hold of the power. And this comes through the kaf pei, which is the unified constituent letters that make up the symbol. And that means the pei hei, as it is spelled, means the revelation of the mouth that speaks through the language, that then completes your training, so that you are no longer in the waters of chaos, because Mother, the lower mem of Mother, you're still in the chaotic waters. The completed mem is now out of the waters of chaos, so you're no longer being controlled and manipulated by the matrix anymore. The other part that's fascinating, that you may not see this, and I didn't see it before when I was first looking at it, is mem, and then the yod, and then the mem, is how we spell the word waters in Hebrew. So in the addition of the letters, we have the mayim right there, and in the middle of the mayim is a kaf. So the waters are, and in the middle of the waters is the power that you find and grasp a hold of through the living water teachings. Now, some of you may have seen that, some of you may not even have any idea of what I just said, and that's okay. But the main thing that I wanted to present to you is that it is our job to grasp a hold of that which is being given to us freely, so that we can achieve the connection of Father through his covenant, being marked no longer under judgment, because we have reached unconditional love, and we have both hands of power, that which gives, that which is received, so that we can complete our journey out of the waters of chaos. And if any of you are feeling like your life is in chaos right now, this is telling us exactly how to get out of the waters of chaos, so that we can be set above in the waters above, which would be shalom. Now we have the next passage about your ways, my ways. And direct is a well-trodden path. That is the root. So I love the fact that, again, we have connecting This Vav usually can mean and, being connected to. So when it's added to the prefix with mother, this is our humility, being teachable. So right before and not your ways, this is saying that the well-trodden path that we are to take is by walking in humility and teachability as we are being instructed in the ways of one. This is a teaching shepherd of light that comes to you to present that which they were instructed in, and they turn and they teach it. They've tamed and yoked themselves, and they have rid themselves of the beast ego nature because they have reached the oneness principle of unconditional love, which is the Mashiach, the Christ, the anointing. So remaining teachable and humble so that you can connect to the teacher that comes to teach you the ways will put you on the well-trodden path, meaning a path that has already been established. You just haven't seen it yet. So the route, again, the way, road, distance, journey. So this is the journey in a manner and a habit. I don't know if you saw that. A course of life. This is all about a way of living life. This is not a religion. Religion binds. This course of life totally sets you free. And you can see this in the root, because the Dalit is the door that you must enter in that will show you that you are weak and feeble in the spiritual journey, that will bring forth a revelation that will deliver you from your lesser beast ego nature that keeps you separated and divided. Because the ego says that we are separate, but the teaching shepherd is coming to teach you in the ways of one. So they are going to open the door for you to be able to begin to see the revelation that you need. Then it moves us to the Resh, which also means poor and destitute on the duality side. But on the flip side of that, it also means top, first fruit, and leader. So they open the door to you to find the revelation that you need, to recognize that you are poor spiritually and you are weak spiritually, so that you can be raised up from your poor and destitute status while you're in this lower realm of the waters of chaos in order to raise you up to be a first fruit. And by presenting to you a way that you can be yoked and tamed that is risen. It's important that you guys see something else here, because this is a Kaf Yod Kaf. This word normally, and I'm going to show this to you so that you can see it for yourself. This word normally has what's called a Kaf Sofit, a fallen Kaf. This means that this is a well-trodden path that is in a fallen nature in the lesser world, in the earth of materialism. So most people walk this way, on the well-trodden path in the material realm, in a fallen nature, not even realizing that there's a higher path to be taken. So when it morphed into this, we can see that now it is no longer fallen below the line. These are two powers that you must grasp a hold of. This is the power of Mother, who teaches through her language, that is having a vision that connects to another power that that you need to grasp a hold of. And this is the pattern of the Ark of the Covenant, the cherubim that are on top of it, which are a representation of Mother and Father in bringing in oneness, unity. The pattern of the Ark of the Covenant, which is also known as the Ark of the Testimony, because it is through this process that we become changed and we become a new man, a new creation out of our lesser nature. So this is the well-trodden path that we didn't know existed, but this teaching shepherd is going to come and present it to you, to open the door, to rise you up so that you can grasp a hold of Mother in her teaching, which is the divine masculine found within Hebrew, presenting a vision to you of the power to grasp through the second language, the Aramaic, which is the divine feminine, so that you can complete your journey out of the waters of chaos into the waters above, where you're surrounded and protected. That's why it's a sealed mem. These are the waters of completion through the spiritual journey. Then we have the same word. Now it is becoming one with that, and you are having the power of the right hand of Father, or the left hand of Father. It is the right hand and the left hand, because you have to go through the way of right before you get to the left. My husband will be sharing more about that, because I don't think we have before. in explaining to you the right-hand path and the left-hand path. But this is the key to the power that is necessary. And if you remember, the very, very beginning of this was the word key. I find that interesting because even though it is the word for key, this is symbolic of a literal key that opens a lock for you. The two hands of power. You must grasp a hold of the vision that is presented to you by the teaching shepherd that will show you the way of one. So the ways, the door, which transliteration, the door and the key. So if you can think of that in a way that you can connect to, there is a door that is locked and the key is being presented to you. Neum is a word that means a declaration and a revelation of a prophet in an ecstatic state, and always preceding the divine name. So this is a prophetic utterance of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And we have shared this before, what Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is. I will explain this to you. I am no longer interested in history that was presented to us about what this tetragrammaton name means. We are rendering everything clear, and we are in the place where we are restoring all things. So that which was perverted of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is being restored into its original intent. And it makes no difference to me what the Gnostic teachings say, because those Gnostic teachings were translated into an English language for us to look at. And since it was translated through a man or a woman, which is ego, being separate, their translation would be based upon where they were viewing themselves at the time in order to present that. And if they did not have the code to be able to break down what these letters mean, it is only going to be a very limited vision, hence why Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh was seen as something terrible and something for us to not look at, because it was in the place where they were under the instruction of oneness yet, but they hadn't found that principle. They hadn't found the unified field. So there is much of what they are translating that is going to be skewed in a direction of a lesser narrative of still being in darkness, which means darkness is an absence of light. Light is information. So darkness is having no information or little information. So we have shared this before, that this is a teaching pattern. It is the teaching pattern of mother and father. The divine masculine, which then connects itself to the divine feminine. Twin revelations that are meant to be connected to you, which is the power, means, and direction given to you to make this happen, so that these two revelations, these twin teachings, would become one, manifest in Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the teaching pattern. This is literally the teaching pattern of the sacred wedding, where we will marry the divine masculine and the divine feminine into becoming one, which then gives us the power that we need to be unified in the oneness field, as fully connected in what people would know as the Kundalini experience, where we are no longer divided. And the root of this word means to come to pass, to be, to become. So this teaching pattern is being presented for us to become something greater than we are, that would give us the power to be able to connect these two things together. And then that way, our thoughts and our ways are the way of one. This is the restoration of all things. So again, in a younger version of ourselves, in the lesser process, in our childlike state, we would see that our thoughts are not their thoughts and our ways are not their ways. But as we grow up and we begin to see greater and more light has come through the teaching shepherd of light, which is literally the languages, the letters of light themselves, they are instructing us. So then our thoughts are the same thoughts and our ways are the same ways, because we've been unified as one through the teaching pattern that is spoken to come to pass, to be, through Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Mother and Father uniting us as one. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.